Hello, I'm Karma Kitaj, and I'm your host for A Livelihood, New Adventures as We Age. And I'm going to introduce you today to Samantha White. And Samantha has written a very lovely memoir after the death of her daughter. So we're going to learn about her recovery and her resiliency. Hello.
Hi.
Sam. I'm going to call you Sam.
That's fine. All my friends do.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm really honored to be here.
I am happy to have you here, Sam. So I want to tell that little story that I think I may have mentioned to you, and that is that you sent me a copy of your book.
Yes.
Which is called, and I'm going to read the title because it's long, Someone to Talk to, Finding Peace, Purpose, and Joy After Tragedy and Loss. And as you told me, there's even a subtitle, A Recipe for Healing from Trauma and Grief. And I know you said that you focus more on the healing.
Yes.
You do.
People think of it as a book about grieving, bereavement. But I don't think of it as a book about death and dying. It's a book about healing. The book starts with my daughter's death. But the rest of the book is what I decided to do and how I achieved that.
So I do want to tell my little story, though, because...
I don't know what your little story is, so I'm all ears.
You had sent me this book some weeks ago in preparation for this interview.
Yes.
And I knew, basically what it was about, and I thought, I'd just take a little look at it. I started reading the first few pages, and I don't think I ever put it down until the very end. And I have not had this experience that you had, of losing someone close to me. So it's clearly not just about grieving a loss, as you say. It's a wonderful memoir of your journey.
It defies categorization. When I applied for the Nautilus Award, they have 30 categories, and I needed to choose which category I wanted my book to be considered in. I find it very difficult. It's memoir. It's about healing from trauma and loss. I think it's an adventure story, and it has a bit of a how-to at the end of it. The subtitle is A Recipe for Healing from Trauma and Grief. And there is a recipe with ingredients. It's the recipe that I created for myself and followed for my healing, and that I present at the end for the reader who may want to adapt that recipe, customize it for themselves. After my daughter's death, I was in shock for a very long time. I couldn't read, I couldn't think, I couldn't drive, I couldn't work. I absorbed the trauma of her death, which was a violent one. And you know how we hear about identical twins who experience each other's pain, and when one has surgery, the other one needs to be put under anesthesia? Or if one breaks a leg in California, the one in the state of Virginia feels the pain. I experienced what I imagined my daughter's experience to be, and I was broken. The mind part of my mind-body was broken, as her body had been broken. So I was looking for a way out of this agony, and I came across a book called Coming Back by Ann Kaiser Stearns. And it was all about people who had had major losses in their lives and what one can do to recover, to not recover, but heal. It's different. Life is never the same again. I am not the way I was before it happened. We become larger, different from the experience. Writing this book has taken my career in a new direction. I'm a psychotherapist, but I was asked to speak.
And you were not always a psychotherapist.
No, that was part of my plan. I became a psychotherapist after psychotherapists helped me. And I was so impressed by what psychotherapists do that I realized I couldn't do that. And so I went back to school at the age of 52.
Okay.
And
so this was an entirely new career for you.
Totally new. And now I'm being asked to speak to high school students and to parent organizations because alcohol-related automobile crashes are the #1 killer of teens in this country. And
yeah, I don't know if we actually stated explicitly how your daughter had died. Right.
She was a homicide victim. When there is an automobile crash caused by intoxication, it is not ruled an accident, it's ruled a homicide.
Yeah.
And the owner of the car in which she was killed was charged with 3 counts of homicide because she and 2 of her friends were killed that night. Parents need to know how to protect their kids because kids don't understand the reality of death until it gets very close to them. So when I speak, I put a picture of my daughter up on the screen behind me, a picture taken when she was 17. And I say, this is my daughter.
Yeah, and this is the one we have here, huh?
Yes. And she was 17. I don't spend a lot of time talking about the tragedy and the agony of it. It doesn't take much for the kids to understand that this is a kid like them who didn't make it to 21. I'd like to announce the award I just received.
I know. Well, you made mention of it a few moments ago, the Nautilus Award.
Yeah. This is the first time I am going public with this because the award committee asked me to wait until after yesterday's date until the winners had been announced. And I've been awarded a Nautilus Book Award, a 2012 Nautilus Book Award for this book in the category of grieving, death, and dying. The Nautilus Award is given to books that the judges feel helps with spiritual growth, healing, positive social change, inspiration for living a better life or making a better world.
So let's talk a little bit about your recovery, and especially using your recipe, because you said you sort of set an intention for yourself. And what was that intention?
Well, according to Dr. Stern's book, trauma survivors fall into 3 categories of roughly equal size. About 1/3 of the people who have been traumatized never recover. And another 1/3 return to their previous level of functioning. And the other 1/3 report that they grow beyond any place they had ever been before, that somehow the experience contributed to their becoming stronger, wiser,
so
deeper.
It maybe expands their consciousness.
Yes, and gives their life a purpose. And I set my intention to fall into that 1/3.
So the next pieces of the recipe, let's make sure we get those on the table.
For me, what I needed was support. All the support I could get. Family, friends, neighbors, my therapist, support groups, everything. I just gathered all the support I could. I had always been a very independent woman, accustomed to accomplishing things on my own. And this was something that I learned from this, that we can't go through this life and do everything on our own. I'm very lucky.
So, Sam, we have literally only about a minute left, but I want to notice this harp.
Okay. I built this harp myself. It's not a serious musical instrument. I think of it as an instrument for my healing. It just makes lovely music. And when I was diagnosed with cancer, I decided that my short-term goal was going to be to build this harp. And after I was operated on and I came home, and during my period of convalescence, I started to build this harp. I knew nothing about harps. I knew nothing about music.
It has such a nice sound
Thank
for a
you.
little thing like that. I think you said that this, just playing the harp brought you joy.
Yes.
During your recovery.
There's something about the harp that brings a peaceful feeling. And since building this harp, I have become a more serious harpist, and I have a real harp that stands on the floor, and I have taken music lessons on the harp.
Well, I want to thank you for coming to A Livelihood, and I want to urge people to buy your book because, you know, as I said earlier on, it just struck me as being so meaningful and so inspirational.